Well, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Welcome to the last day of the 11th Annual Transformative Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Conference. As I've mentioned before, it's presented by Northeastern State University. The session today is one of 60 sessions we've had since Monday of last week. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator for the session. As a reminder, all of our sessions are closed captioned. To view the captions, simply click on the closed caption icon on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. We've been fortunate to have Michelle be our captionist for all of the sessions, and she's done a terrific job. Today's session is Feel Real, Social Presence within Online Discussion Forums. And our presenter is Jennifer Carlson from Hamline University. She's her key areas of scholarship include online teaching and learning, school partnerships, literacy methods, leadership, and literature. And she's going to tell us everything we need to know. Right, Jennifer?
That's right. Well, some things we need to know. All right, are we ready? Can everybody hear me? Okay, Bob,
yes, we can.
Oh, okay, good. Good. Am I ready to go here? Hello?
Yeah, Jennifer, talk a little more. We want to make sure you're not getting any echo.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Very glad you're here. Thanks for joining, and hello from Minnesota, where it's 9 below and feels like 17 below. Glad to spend a little Valentine's time with you all. Can everyone hear me clearly? Can I move forward?
So keep moving forward. And see what we do, how we do.
Okay, great. Our goals today are to lead with a working definition of what social presence is, strategies to enrich social presence in the online learning environment, and to share a variety of discussion formats. I'll share with you, and then I'm hoping at some point we can do a little idea exchange, and so you can share what has or maybe has not worked well for you. I'd like to start out with just having you reflect a little bit with a scenario. So think back to the first day of a professional development training that you've never attended before. The first day on a new job, a new committee, or in a new class, and imagine all the new faces around you. Think about not knowing the rules of this new setting or the ways in which people were expected to act. Think about not knowing the language of the group, whether this is literally or figuratively true. Although you may have been excited to be there, you may also have felt some degree of nervousness and unease because this was a new educational setting. Think about what you did to feel comfortable and make connections with others. Would anybody like to share a few ideas? Okay, when we connect with others in new social situations, we create social presence or a degree of interpersonal contact. Think about the scenarios described in the last slide and imagine it taking place within an online context and how it would be different. How to make connections with other students? How would an online context impact your engagement. So the research project I'm going to share with you today dug into these questions. What does social presence in online courses look like, and are there pedagogical choices instructors can make to enhance it? And I'm seeing that the sound is a little choppy. I'm going to maybe switch my location briefly, and maybe that will help too. All right, social presence defined. Here's what the literature says about social presence. Social presence is to create a level of comfort. It's the degree to which participants are able to project themselves affectively within a medium, that difference between affectively and affectively. And the last quote I have here is from Garrison, who's a seminal name used in discussing social presence. And he defines it as the ability of learners to project themselves socially and emotionally as real people in a learning community. And this definition inspired our research and our title of Feeling Real. So in this study, being a real person in an online environment was measured by a learner's sense of identity and individuality in an online learning environment. Without social presence, the consequences of dropout, increased dropout, feelings of isolation, having less learning potential. Sometimes participants feel like I was just resorting to a list of tasks as opposed to being a part of something special. With social presence, there's more depth and communication in the flow of information, improved peer-to-peer and group cohesion, and improved learning satisfaction. The research shows a clear relationship between students' perceived sense of social presence and students' perceived learning experience and learning. So after reviewing the literature, there's a group of us, there's myself and three of my colleagues identified the following themes across our literature study. Social climate, which is creating an environment where students feel welcomed and social presence is really encouraged. Feeling like a real person, a member of a community where peers see you as an individual with a name, a face, and a history. Membership in the community of learners, social presence really helps to realize collaboration through establishing a really warm, collegial learning community and encouraging participation and interaction. And for the quality of that learning experience, we really wanted to know how the different forums, discussion forums that we implemented would impact that quality, and as relevant to our work in teaching graduate level courses. And we just believe that if we identify these in our own course construct, it would provide really valuable information in our online teaching and our goal of building a community and having people feel part of something. Just really quickly, I'll cover this really fast. In the literature, we found that course design was a strategy that enriched social presence, and so that relied on the course designer or the instructor, whoever is building that course. We also found that the delivery and management relied heavily on who is teaching that course, the instructor or instructors. However, in our study, we found that the responsibility also extends to the participants, so that participation piece. They also have a stake in creating their own sense of feeling real and also creating an environment where others can feel real. They need to have that reciprocal interaction with whoever is teaching the course, which is something different that the literature had not really addressed. Specific
Hey, Jennifer, if I may interrupt for a moment.
Sure.
Here, I think your audio is still pretty choppy to listen to.
Okay.
Would you consider dialing in on the phone?
Oh, sure.
I think that would eliminate it.
Okay.
Yeah, just click on the icon in the lower left, and it'll give you the number and the passcode.
Okay, I'm having trouble seeing that. Let's see here. I'm sorry about, I don't see that, where that is. That, how's that drop down?
Right on the toolbar in the lower left, you should have an audio, an icon. Right, it's right next to the video.
Okay.
If you click on it, it'll pop up a window with the phone number and passcode.
Sorry, everybody, I'm having a hard time with that. Okay, one.
Mine's a little different because I'm already dialed in on the phone.
Okay. I'm sorry about, I'm not seeing it on my screen, and I'm very sorry, everybody, for holding you all up.
Yeah, okay. This is part of what happens when you're doing virtual. You're good. Just we're anxious to hear what you're gonna say. So.
Bob, can you send that to me? It's just not here.
Oh. Okay. Okay, hang on. Okay, put the number in the chat box for you, and then I'm going to put the meeting ID after that. You'll be prompted to enter it.
Okay. Does that work? Oops, I'm getting some feedback here.
Okay, so now you want to mute your speakers.
Oh, boy.
So you only get audio from your phone.
I don't know how to do that.
that matter, you mute your microphone as well. In fact, I'll do that for you. So audio both ways only comes from your phone.
Okay, is this better?
Oh, yeah. Great, because we all want to hear the great things. So would you start again on this particular slide, and we'll be great.
Okay, thanks everybody for being so patient. All right, we left off at sharing some specific strategies for building social presence, and some of you may have incorporated some of this into your online teaching, and others might be new. And this comes from the research, student profiles and pictures, audio, visuals, and tools, providing prompt responses to questions, providing unmoderated discussion places, the Muddiest Point, Coffee House, Student Forum, introduction type activities, using first names in posts, sharing of personal experiences, and well, with the sharing of personal experiences, one thing I'm usually very careful to invite students to share the experience and not require them to. I teach in the education department, and it's teachers that take the courses, and so they very naturally will share experiences from their classrooms. But when it comes to personal experiences, some are a little less willing to do so until later in the term. And so that's an area that I'm usually fairly careful about. But all of these added to our research question. We wanted to know what else we could do and how discussion forums, since those are the most popular ways of teaching using online teaching, are used. And so we asked the research question, how does incorporating a variety of discussion forum designs enhance social presence in an online course? So our methodology is that we implemented 4 discussion formats: small group, large group, synchronous, and artifact, based on an artifact. And then we collected data through student surveys, which we asked them to complete 2 to 3 times in a single course. And then we also reflected on the experiences that we thought students were having throughout the course and kept kind of a dialogue journal between the 4 of us in the graduate level courses that we were teaching. The courses were offered in 3 different programs: literacy, Master of Arts in Education, and a reading license program, and a Master of Arts in Teaching program. So our guiding question: how do you structure an online large group discussion to meet those 4 themes that we identified in the literature? And those, again, were social climate, feeling like a real person, membership in a community of learners, and then the quality of the learner experience. So here's what we did, and here's what we found. They'll be integrated together. So we found that implementing large group discussion 3 or 4 weeks into the term provided a more positive experience. We provided forms specifically for community building on the first end of those, so weeks 1 through 1 and 2, and acknowledged opportunities for creative response. In the large group discussions, we asked all students to respond at least once to the main discussion prompt and at least twice to their other classmates' posts. And analysis of student survey data indicated that the majority of students agreed or strongly agreed to either their positive experience in a whole group discussion forum. So here's what students had to say. Since we are at the end of the course, some of our courses are just 6 weeks long, others are 12 to 13 weeks. But since we're at the end of the course, as opposed to the beginning, I feel so like my classmates know me, even in these formats that are inherently less personal. And sharing our profiles, we were able to connect with other members and recognize our common purpose. We found that it enhanced the social climate and membership in a community of learners. For example, a student said, so far it has been a quality learning experience because of the similarities and differences we have as a collective group. And students felt that they were more feeling like a real person and the social climate was enhanced. A quote was, "It made me feel like a real person because everyone was able to freely share." The next mode that we used was small group discussion formats. And students, it became a nested community within the larger community. We defined small group as 4 to 6 students in a form. We had some of those small groups as private, which means that once they accessed the small group, they could only see what their small group that they were assigned to was post, or what they would post and discuss. Others we had open, so they would interact within only their small group, but they could go in and read responses in some of the other small groups. It was a nested community, and we found that it was a platform or forum for a more complex learning, and created a more positive learning experience. Here's what students had to say. Everyone talks like they're sitting right next to you in class, so it makes it a positive experience for learning. And small groups lead to deeper, more meaningful connections and a better understanding of each other's topics. We found that this was a great way for learners to dig into content. It was a perfect time to use a small group. If students have a project component in your course, consider project-alike small groups to build a sense of support in a nested community. It becomes like a professional learning community in the education field. We call that TLC. And so it gives them an opportunity to interact with a smaller group of people and engage in a deeper sense of whatever the topic, concept, or problem is that they're working on. Synchronous discussions. So synchronous discussions comes when we assign students to meet online, on the phone, or in person around classroom content. We've used Skype, Google Hangouts, or WebEx, and now that I have a little better understanding of Zoom, that could be used also. And the most important aspect of synchronous is that the students have the opportunity to talk to each other and not just the facilitator, who often can be the instructor of the course. And so they have the opportunity to really interact and engage with each other. We found in our study that there was some tension with the flexibility of online learning. They were combating that flexibility that they really enjoy about logging on when they want to, and then having to suddenly adhere to some sort of schedule. Student comments discuss the difficulty of finding a time to meet. So in some of the course assignments, we would have students just ask them to meet with their small group in a synchronous session, or we would ask them to log on with the instructor in a large group synchronous session. And if it wasn't scheduled ahead of time at a particular date and time, it became challenging and not quite as enjoyable for a lot of students to have to adhere to that specific time. However, it did increase that sense of really feeling real, because students were able to see each other and interact. They were able to put the face with the name. We also found that it contradicted the literature. They had a higher perceived sense of social presence, but the results of their experience within the synchronous session, the results were mixed. So here's what students had to say. We met via Google Hangout and saw the faces behind the screen names, and my oldest daughter even made an appearance due to not wanting to go to bed. Can't get more real than that. Oh, we've had dogs barking in the background and kids talking and people putting away dishes, and it creates a real sense of wearing the student hat and home life in a lot of ways, which can be really, really wonderful. Finally, our last online discussion format was artifact-based. And with artifact-based discussions, that includes having the students demonstrate and share their understanding of course content and content material through producing a digital artifact or just providing a visual type of artifact. For example, students created 90-second video responses using Flipgrid and collages using Pictocollage. And in another class, students had to create a concept map or find relevant photos or visuals that were a metaphor for their learning or for their understanding of a particular concept. And we found that for many of the students, the quality of the learning experience was really enhanced through learning and becoming more familiar with using digital tools, but also there was great value and a greater sense of social presence when students took the time to do that and then shared what it was that they did. The responses became much more authentic. So the quality of the learning was enhanced. There was a greater sense of investment. We actually found that students participated more often than what we had required. And so if we asked them to respond to post their artifact and then respond to 2 other of their group mates or classmates, they would respond more frequently than just those 2. And it provided an opportunity for students to use creative mediums to show what they understood or learned about the content and how it could be applied to their work setting. So I'm curious to know, where are you in your practice of developing the conditions for social presence in your courses? This is a visual I really like to use called, I don't even know what it's called, I call it the blob. And so take a look at the visual and think about which one of these blobs best represent your practice of developing the conditions for social presence in your courses. So we can share via group chat. I'm hoping I'll be able to hear you if you'd like to verbally share too. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share?
Oh, they're shy this morning. Oh, here we go. Got something else.
Okay. So Alice says, I use Zoom for mock parent-teacher conferences throughout the semester in teacher education courses. You know, that technology platform for practice. And if it's a mock conference, I'm assuming that there's some role play on each side. And how do you see that feeling real aspect of that, feeling part of something in that format? Okay, Victoria shared small group and large group discussions. I like the Coffee House and Muddiest Point forum ideas. I found that Coffee House and Muddiest Point provide a low risk opportunity for students to ask questions and seek responses from classmates as opposed to emailing the instructor. There have been times where I have not included those in my forum or in our online course, and I do see an increase of emails to me asking for clarifications about particular things or due dates or so on. where that Coffee House and Muddiest Point provide students the opportunity to rely and work together in order to answer some of those questions. Yes. So Sean had said, new to teaching online courses and have only been using discussion forums. I would like to branch out. You know, as I mentioned earlier, discussion forums are I think the most popular way, or the way we get students to interact, but I think diversifying how we use those discussion forums, which is what this research capitalizes on, makes a big difference. And we were really surprised at actually how positive students responded to the use of the large group forum. We had a debate about, you know, when you have 25 students in your class, just having one large group and having that steady stream of responses, how does that really help people feel like they're part of something and help them feel like they're acknowledged as an individual in that online learning environment? But as I shared, waiting to do that a little further into the term when some community has been built really did enhance the opportunity for social presence, and students were really positive about it. But I do think it's that community building and providing specific forums at the beginning of the term, asking students to share a little bit about themselves, post a picture, provide some information about their interests, their personal interests, and how it connects to the course or not, is a great foundation for then having success in the large forums. Did students use more of one audio or video tool versus another tool? I'm wondering I think that question is directed towards Alice. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about the artifact, because we found that is probably one of the most influential forums that we used for making people feel like they had something to say and they could say it related to their learning and also related to their professional and personal experiences. Very enriching. Something as simple as a prompt asking them to seek out a photograph that is a visual representation of their understanding of for example, if I'm going to capitalize on the parent-teacher conferences virtually, so a visual representation of their understanding of how a relationship can be built between the parent and the teacher in a virtual environment. It really gives you a window into the thinking process of the student, and it gives them the opportunity to provide a rationale from their own experience more naturally and authentically than they might if they had to write a paper about it or write a summary about it. It's probably one of my favorite assignments or forum tools or prompts to provide to students is the artifact-based. What other ways have you built community and developed social presence in your own online teaching? Anything you know of colleagues that have done? I'd be curious if we were all together in a room, just by show of hands, how many people have to develop their own courses as opposed to having an instructor, a course designer. So I do think that makes a difference too. Other thoughts? Yeah, thank you, Alice. Yeah, at our university, all the courses are faculty designed, sometimes within specific fields or content areas. We will partner when we design them because we don't always teach the same course. And so we share some expertise and then we idea share around how to build that community piece. If I go back to the slide that's posted to you now about developing the conditions for social presence in your courses and doing a bit of a self-assessment. Before starting the research, I was probably down at the bottom of the tree. If you see the little blob lifting the other individual up, we have a faculty member in our School of Education who is very well versed in technology. That's her area of specialty, plus very interested in it. And she was the person lifting me up the tree, helping me figure out how to best construct courses that are not only meaningful in content, but also meaningful to individuals and groups. And after working with her and doing some research, I would put myself further up the tree, either with the two blobs with the arm around each other, or the one standing on the platform, depending on the course. One thing that I thought was an interesting perspective was Rovi's work, where he talks about 4 dimensions of online communities, including spirit. And he says, spirit is the feeling of friendship, cohesion, and bonding, while trust relies on credibility and benevolence in an online learning environment. So feeling like a real person where peers see each other as unique individuals with name, identity, face, and history. And that notion of spirit and how to develop a sense of spirit when generally everything relies on words on the screen. Ideas that other people would like to share? Okay, I'm going to take us back to this slide for specific strategies. We already talked a little bit about the muddiest point in the coffee house. Ideas for introduction activities in small or large group that you maybe have used, that you'd like to share for ideas, an idea exchange.
This is like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anyone? Anyone?
Yes. All right. Let's go up to small group and that nested community within a community. One of the things I'd like to share from our research is that many of us only used small groups from the start of the course to the end of the course. And we found, well, one of the ways that we did it is sometimes we kept students in the same small group for half the course and then switched them in the middle of the course to new small groups, which had both pros and cons, but that sense of community that was developed after spending several weeks together with the same group of people then was lost and had to start over in building a sense of trust and social presence with one another at that halfway point. So one of the things that we had also found in our research is that doing the community building at the beginning, but having students in small groups and different small groups each week or within each module, so the groups were consistently changing, actually developed a better sense of trust and community across the participants in the course, across the students, as opposed to keeping them a little bit more confined and keeping their group as tight throughout it. And so that's something that we've all changed in our courses as well. And Sean shared, I taught a blended public speaking class and had them do their first speech of introduction as a video that was posted to the discussion forums. I agree. Great idea. Again, it's putting that face with the voice. And I wonder if doing that at the beginning, so their first speech as an introduction, and then doing that in the middle again in order to reconnect voice, faces with names, and even at the end as a conclusion to the course, if that could be a thread that is throughout. Thanks, Sean. I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that we could do in all of our courses, for sure. Has anybody had, when you've done synchronous sessions, had a better sense of that building community with that and removing some of that tension that I talked about? The tension being the need to log on at a specific time and a specific date. The synchronous sessions have been very, thank you, Alice. The synchronous sessions have been very conversational in my class. We always make sure that we end with a what's going on in your world. That's that really nice personal connection. Like, it's important to be here and it's important what we're doing here, but what's happening outside of here. I like that. Thanks for sharing that also. We've got some good ideas generating.
So this is Dan Nguyen, and I would like some share my perspective with online teaching.
Thank you.
And I see that, for example, Colorado State University or Saudi Electronic University. So beside the normal introduction as welcome and so on like that, but there's also discussion for welcome also, because this kind of so that everyone would know the background of her colleges and what they current where they live, as well as what kind of work background and so on like that. So it's kind of like to get them all look at my peer, what technology they're working on and currently where they're at with certain company, right? They work around the world. But and also that I see that when sharing the personal experience with respect to your research work, as well as your project, especially relate to the course you are teaching, then students are more connected and engaged. And also one of the students from CSU, he kept on connected with me. He said, "Oh, I'm very interested in your research and so on like that, and you are very knowledgeable, as well as provide the a sense of accomplishment for or provide the encouragement for all students to follow, or provide great role model and so on like that." But that's what I see.
Well, thank you. So I heard you say connected and engaged and providing encouragement. So you work with people from all over the world. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, correct. Even students from Saudi Arabia, like from 2 different campus locations. But I also do teach regularly for the discussion formats, as well as do the lecture every other week, 1 hour lecture, virtual lecture.
So every other week, a virtual
1 hour lecture.
A virtual lecture.
Yes.
And how are students engaged in the lecture? Is it do they watch it in real time, like synchronous, or do they?
Do they watch it in real time? So it was virtual, but in real time for them.
Okay. And what ideas have you done for engaging them in those virtual lectures?
So
that
in the
would increase that?
in the virtual lecture, like besides like share and like besides like what we're not supposed to read the PowerPoint slide. Right? We provide the real world experience as well as we provide the polling question at the beginning also, especially in the current topic. So what like did they have any experience on? They're welcome to provide feedback in the chat, right? Or if they don't not need to answer, but that's okay. But at the beginning, I would provide the at the beginning that I will provide the polling question, and also like during the in the middle, right? We can I can bring up the current topic with respect to that topic. I can share my real world experience on that, and they get more excited and pretty well. Even though they don't engage, but they were very interested in what I have to say as well, instead of reading from PowerPoint.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing. I love the idea of the polling questions and feedback in the chat and being able to pause in the middle. I haven't used polling questions before in order to create engagement in a synchronous type of example like you're giving, or even in a synchronous meeting of our group. So I suppose depending on the questions, content-based, and I know you had mentioned, connecting to their own experiences. That makes a difference. Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
You're welcome.
Yes. We've talked about, I've asked some of these questions to encourage further discussion. And I'd like to just, follow up, and I encourage you to jump in here too, but, research on effective online teaching really indicates that social presence, it really enhances learning. And just like Dan had shared about, working with students from all over the world, and how do we get them to connect as learners and as students in the same field, and then ultimately as people. Developing opportunities for that social presence really enhances that online learning environment, and it connects students to the instructor and to one another, and influence the learning experience that they have in their own perceptions of what they learned in the course and what it is you're working on, whether it's the projects or other assignments. So by establishing that social presence of the individual and honoring those social, historical, and current experiences of the students in the class, it really does create a richer, more engaging learning community that can be formed. And some of the ideas that I shared here may not be entirely new to you. Many of you probably have done synchronous sessions like what that was shared here. You've done partner type of sessions. You probably have done small and large group. But what we're really interested in is how is that social presence developed within there, and what is within each of those, and then what can we do to highlight those. And so we'd found the community building piece at the beginning, specific small group forums for those at the beginning of a course, moving large group discussion forums to the middle, as opposed to having those at the beginning where students may feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of names on the screen. And then including those artifact type, not only the digital tools, but also visuals, creating their own visuals or seeking out visuals that become metaphors or visually show what the students are thinking, are one of the most positive ways of getting students to share a little bit more of themselves and have them feel more invested in the course. If you'd like to learn more, we had an article published on our research in the Distance Learning Journal, Feeling Real, Social Presence Within Online Discussions. You can find the Distance Learning Journal link there. I don't think you're able to access the actual article unless you have a subscription, but it will show you how to do it there. But I thank you so much for attending today. Sorry for the technology challenges, but that's technology. Sometimes it's our friend and sometimes it isn't. But if you have any other questions or you'd like to stay on and talk, please feel free to continue. I'd love to keep talking. We have about 5 minutes left, well, 2-3 minutes left anyway, where we can still idea exchange, or you can ask me any questions about the research that we did.
Yeah, I think you gave everybody some good ideas.
Well, I hope so. It really has impacted our work, and you can see it in the course evaluations and the way students are talking to one another in those online courses, how they respond and what they respond, for sure. Can I make my slideshow available? Yes, and I do have a handout that I am happy to share too. Thanks, Ruchi. I totally understand.
Yeah, Jennifer, it's up to you. You could have them just contact you directly, or you send it to me and I'll post it on the website with the info about your session, whatever you would prefer.
Sure. I think I'll have Bob post it on the site. That way it's accessible for everybody and for anybody who watches the recording of this session as well.
Okay, great. Well, as soon as you send it to me, I'll get it posted same day. No problem.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see most of you guys in our next session coming up at the top of the hour.
All right. Enjoy the conference. Bye.